Welcome to the Political Matrix News. We have the sources, we have the truth from inside the political matrix.
Go ahead.
Welcome back to Political Matrix News, broadcast tonight on the 21st year of August. We have Jonathan Cole here with us of Navarre, and he's one of my partners in our consulting firm, the Political Matrix. And we have a special guest tonight, Pete Golenbock. He is a New York Times bestselling author. And Pete, go ahead and tell us about your new book you got coming out.
Our new book is out. It's called Baseball Heaven.
Okay.
Baseball Heaven. And it's
Cool.
I've been doing interviews over the last, 40-something years. Dynasty was my first, where I interviewed 50 Yankees. And then I did Bums, I interviewed another, whole bunch of Dodgers. I did Wrigleyville, which was Cubs. Fenway, which was the Red Sox. And Mason, which is the Mets. And so I took some of the very, very best interviews. When you do an interview, you can, interview somebody for an hour and a half. And then you take, 5 minutes of that interview and put it in one of those books.
Exactly.
But the interviews, the whole interviews, very often are incredibly fascinating. When I was in college, I got this book, The Glory of Their Times by Larry Ritter. And The Glory of Their Times was interviews. He went around the country for 4 or 5 years with his reel-to-reel tape recorder, interviewing the players who played in the 1910s and 1920s. And it was a magnificent book. I know I read this thing. Ty Cobb's, people who played with Ty Cobb in the outfield, people who played with Ruth, people who played with Joe Jackson, just fascinating people talking about these men.
Yeah.
And so having read it, that's one of the things I wanted to do when I was writing Dynasty and Bums and Wrigleyville and so forth. I wanted the players to be the focus of these books. And so in Baseball Heaven right now, I pick some of my favorite people and put them in there. Gary Carter is in there, certainly. When I did Amazing, I interviewed him and he talked about the problems he was having in Montreal, that he was a guy who was a happy-go-lucky guy who enjoyed the press. He liked being on TV, and the players just resented the hell out of him. His life very difficult while he was in Montreal. He was talking about that. I interviewed Doc Ellis in this book. Doc Ellis, of course, he pitched a no-hitter on LSD. I wrote a book back in 1989-90 on the Senior Professional Baseball League. The St. Pete Pelicans were the team, and Doc Ellis was on it. And I not only wrote a book about it called The Forever Boys, I was the color commentator on the TV show.
Well, that's what brought you to Florida, too.
That's what brought me to Florida, absolutely. And I fell in love with St. Petersburg the first day I was there. The sun was shining, it was 75 degrees on the 31st of October. And I said, why in the world am I living in Connecticut? And at the end of the season, move back here, St. Petersburg. But Doc Ellis was somebody who I had a great rapport with. When I first came to the team, Bobby Tolan, the manager, said, I think we have a problem. Some of these players don't want some strange guy hanging around them. So I'm sitting there with Tolan, and Doc Ellis is walking around my chair and he's going, loser writer, loser writer, loser writer. So I said to Tolan, let me talk to the players. These are all former Major League ball players. Let me talk to these guys and tell them what I want to do. And he said, fine. So I walked over to the clubhouse where all these players were standing, and I proceeded to tell them what my book was going to be about, which was about their love of baseball and their opportunity to play the game again. And one of the things that I said to him was, and if there's anything in this book that you don't want me to say, I'll take it out. And the meeting ended, and I had no idea whether I was welcome or whether I was not. But the next day we were getting on the bus and going to Winter Haven. And I got on the bus with my briefcase and my tape recorder. and nobody said a thing. And so for the next 3 months, I had a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to spend the season with the St. Pete Pelicans. And it's still one of my most fun books. People still talk about it, The Forever Boys.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and so Doc Ellis is in this book that I've written now, The Baseball Heaven. Ralph Branca is in it. Bobby Thompson is in it. It's if you love baseball and you love to hear your baseball heroes talk about the people they played with and the managers.
Let me clarify that one, because we live in an age of millennials and Gen X's, but Bobby Thompson hit the shot heard around the world off Ralph Branca in 51.
1951, right.
So, yeah.
I imagine most of the people buying these books are going to be 60 years older or over.
Right. I think there's younger people that like to look into it, but yeah. So,
I mean, you just never know. You just never know what you're going to find when you talk to somebody. One of the fellows I interviewed, his name was Eldon Auker. And I interviewed him because I was writing a book on the St. Louis Cardinals and St. Louis Browns. But since I had the opportunity to interview him, I interviewed him about his time with the Detroit Tigers, which is where he started. And his year was 1 year with the Boston Red Sox. And this was a story that was unbelievable. His manager was Joe Cronin. And Joe Cronin was also the shortstop on the Red Sox that year. And come to find out, Eldon, as the pitcher, was not allowed to call his own pitches. Cronin called the pitches, whether to throw a fastball or a curve or a slider or whatever. And I'll be darned, I just can't imagine being a pitcher and having somebody else call your pitches like that. And he was telling me this story, and I just find it fascinating. At the end of the year, he went to Tom Yawkey and he said, "I can't play for this guy anymore. Will you trade me out of here?" And that's how he got traded over to the St. Louis Browns. So these are the stories that I tell in this book. It's an awful lot of fun.
And I kind of want to
Where can I find the book?
You can find the book bookstores. Amazon, certainly. Amazon. And I have another book, if you want another book of these things, called Whispers of the Gods. There it is, Whispers of the Gods, which is another 15 interviews with other people. And it's coming out in paperback next year, and it's gotten some awards. So people seem to like it.
I introduced people to this one today.
Yeah.
Go Gators, yeah.
Oh, yeah. My Go Gators book. An oral history of the University of Florida football team. Now, when I wrote that,
I remember Coach Graves' intro.
Yeah,
because he
when I finished that book. When I finished that book, it was 1,600 pages long.
Yeah, you covered 50 something.
I know. I had to cut 500 pages out of it.
I just remember Coach Graves' comment in his intro in the book, which he's always a man I greatly admired. But
absolutely.
When I read the book, he said, I realized I'd never read a book like this before. And it was the fact that you write oral histories.
Uh-huh.
You're not just writing a book and you're doing all the talking, which is always what kind of drew me.
Right.
First, I think I read Bombs Before Dynasty. So, but the whole fact that people were telling the story, you just connected it and put in the details that needed clarification. But
that's right.
So two things. One is first time I read Dynasty, I got a library book. I think it's an original edition. I wish I had that book because your picture on the back was pretty interesting with the big hair and the glasses and the big tie.
I had the big hair. That's true.
It was definitely the 70s. But the thing with Bums was just it was talking about the Dodger players, but it was also talking about Brooklyn's relationship with its team.
Absolutely. There are people alive today who still have never, ever, ever forgiven Walter O'Malley for taking the Dodgers out of Brooklyn. Still.
Yeah.
I think the last line of that book is the three worst people in the world Hitler, Mussolini, and Walter O'Malley.
Yeah. There was that joke, if you had a pistol and you had 3 bullets, and there was those 3 men, who would you shoot first? And the answer was, we'd shoot O'Malley 3 times. And in Bums too, there was I don't know why it stuck when we asked for clarification once, but the story about Larry King bringing chicken fat and matzo sandwiches to Ebbets Field. Like,
yeah.
I'm like, what is he even talking about? And then Larry King, the interviewer, he was a Dodger guy.
He was. Well, he was a close friend of Sandy Koufax. They grew up together.
Exactly. But I mean, what is matzo and chicken fat? That's
That's the thing. You interview somebody, you have no idea what's going to come out of their mouths. That's the wonderful part of it. And I've been doing this now for 40-something years.
This is true. So I guess I haven't read American Nero, so I'm remiss on that one.
Yeah, well, you'll enjoy American Nero. I did it with Richard Painter. Right? I did it with Richard Painter, and we had 3 fabulous gatherings. And the very next day, COVID hit and shut everything down. And that was the end. That was the end of the sales of American Nero. Trump was saved by COVID.
And so tell us about that book.
Well, I mean, he's the worst human being who ever lived. This is a guy, he had a football team in the American, what was the league called?
USFL.
USFL.
Yep.
USFL. And they were playing in the spring. And he had a team, and his goal, more than anything else, was to put his team into the NFL. That's what he wanted to do. So, first thing he did was convince the other owners that they should play head-to-head with the NFL. And so, reluctantly, they agreed to do that. And, of course, at the end of the season, the league went bust.
Right.
And so Trump then went to the commissioner at the time and said, I want to take my team and put it in the NFL. And the guy said to him, I wouldn't put your team in the NFL if you were the only person on earth. This guy was such a sleazebag. He's a guy, you would sign up to say paint his his building, and the idea was he was going to give you $50,000 to paint the building, but he wouldn't pay you up front. He waited until you were done, and then after you were done, he would say to you, "I'll give you $10,000. Take it or leave it." I mean, he's done this his whole life. The man's a criminal. He's just a criminal. And why anybody would vote for him, never mind once but twice, is beyond me.
There's a book called Football for a Buck. I forgot the author's name, but it was about the USFL. But he wrote, most of it was based on the antitrust trial.
They won a buck. They won $1. That's where Trump said to them, we're going to take them to court and we're going to sue them and win millions. And they won $1.
This guy interviewed jurors, and they said to a person, NFL was guilty of sin. There's no way they couldn't say they hadn't committed antitrust violations, but they all said after 3 days of Trump deposing himself on the stand, being a terrible person, they're like, we just, the narcissism was raging then, but just he was so great and everything was so wrong. Yeah, so they awarded $1 just to make their point that
I gotta look into that.
In American Nero, what I found so interesting is how Trump ended up becoming president. This one TV producer was looking for a host for what's the name of his TV show for 20 years?
Apprentice.
The Apprentice. Yeah. He was looking for a host for The Apprentice. And one day this guy is sitting at the skating rink in Central Park. And Trump happened to be there. And Trump had paid the money to fix up the skating rink in Central Park. And the guy said to himself, this might just be the person to host this show. And sure enough, Trump got the job, and he did it for, 20 years?
Mm-hmm.
And so he became famous. And his fame, more than anything else, is what projected him into the presidency.
Right.
Well, actually, he'd been famous even in the 80s. I know who he was.
I know who he was, too. You know how I knew who he was? Five guys in Central Park were accused of raping this woman. And they were all arrested. And Trump put a full-page ad in the paper, in one of the papers, saying that these 5 guys should go to the gas chamber. They should all be killed. And what I find interesting, I think today or tomorrow, one of those guys is going to speak at the convention.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
They were all exonerated. That's the moral of the story. So,
of course they were exonerated.
Yeah.
He was going to have them killed.
The thing I've always given Trump kudos for, or he does exceedingly well, is promote himself.
He's brilliant. He's brilliant, just brilliant. But I think
in the 80s, he made sure him and his first wife, Ivana, were on Entertainment Tonight every night, was on the cover of People. They were celebrities. Well, then his business is good. He files bankruptcy and he divorces his wife, marries his mistress.
What's so hilarious to me is that one of the books I wrote was George, which is about George Steinbrenner. Steinbrenner and Trump could have been twins. They absolutely could have been friggin' twins, because the most important thing to Steinbrenner was being on the pages of the newspaper every day. Right. Not only that, but Trump's shtick in America in Apprentice was firing people. And as you know, Steinbrenner also was somebody who fired 20 of his managers and 20 of his PR guys and his general managers.
Right.
The two of them, like I said, could have been twins.
Yeah. It's but I mean, he filed bankruptcy, got rid of his wife, married his mistress, and started over. And then he was on ET, but he's also other things. He did the whole process again, came up with a new wife, new businesses, Apprentice, and it's just but he's always made sure he's out front and center.
Right. He is the alpha male.
Yep, and it's time. It is time to put him to bed. Enough is enough. I think he's run out of steam. The other day, he was talking for 2 hours with Elon Musk, who's another scoundrel. I mean, he just went on and on and on and on and on, and you can listen to it for about 10 minutes. But after the 10 minutes, it's time to go. Go to the bathroom.
We have 76 days to see how it's all going to turn out.
Yeah,
it's going to be interesting to see right now in Florida, we had our primary yesterday, and we had a very low turnout for Democrats.
Very low.
I can tell you, Florida yesterday, all of the election deniers lost, which is the most important thing. All those people who ran as election deniers, who should be
a lot of them won.
They should be in jail for being election deniers.
There are a lot of election deniers that won as well throughout the state.
Actually, they lost in Santa Rosa County, which is a crimson red county. So
the one in Escambia County.
The interesting thing is that if they try this election denying again, they're going to jail because it's against the law.
Okay, it's not against the law to say that.
Oh, it's against the law, right? It's against the law. As January 6th was against the law, everybody went to jail except the people who put that into motion.
There's one thing. I mean, Jonathan and I have been working on campaigns for a while, and I'm sure you seem like you're very politically astute as well. There are a lot of screwed up elections. There's rogue elections happening in this country for the last 100 years. In fact, we've seen ballots get locked up in a van.
But you've never seen. Maybe you wrote the left.
No, we have.
You've never seen anybody attack the Capitol and beat up the Capitol police.
Well, I didn't talk about January 6th. That's conflating it. I'm talking about the
talk
election
about
being
something
stolen.
else.
I'm talking about the election being stolen. Everything else. I mean, we've seen ballots get stolen.
Oh yeah, no,
We've seen ballots
LBJ
not get
he
counted.
stole a couple of elections. LBJ did that. I know. I read that
So I
book.
mean, it's not out of a line to think that things can be done.
Yeah, but beating up people and killing people to do it is a little different than what
You're
LBJ
right.
did.
Yeah, I don't suggest killing people to vote.
Well,
That's not the
the
Republican
thing
mantra.
is most of these states where they were screaming stolen were red states that had, or at least purple, but they had Republican governors and secretaries of state and
Yeah,
people that oversaw the election
I mean, like
process.
here in Alachua County, we got a Democrat. So we got 800 dead people on the rolls. If you want to take them off,
Well,
they're voting.
that's one
I mean,
county.
they're
I'm
dead.
talking about states where there are electoral votes.
Well, I know. I'm just talking about exact areas where I know of where people who shouldn't be voting because I'm a smart guy and I know that if you're dead, you can't fucking vote. Yeah, they are voting.
I keep
That's
telling my son
hilarious.
one of these days when he has grandkids, Mike Lindell might finally talk about this actual evidence he has
Yeah.
instead of just sitting on it forever. But my thing is, Arizona to me was the tipping point. It's like they scream steal, steal, steal. They had a right wing group called Cyber Ninjas go in, take all the ballots, all the machines, took them off site for 3 months, did extensive testing looking for bamboo fibers and
I don't see
invasions
it
and
being
things.
any different this
And
year.
when they came back, they said they're like, election integrity has to be upheld, blah blah blah. And after all of our extensive investigation, there was no stealing. In fact, Biden had 248 votes more than he was originally awarded. So
Right. And
it,
I see the Trump side doing the exact same thing that they did 4 years ago if they lost.
but
And
it's
so it's going to be a mess. It's going to be a
well,
very
the
messy
thing
election.
though is you don't try to
It's going to
take
be a
down.
landslide. I'll tell you what it's going to be. It's going to be a landslide. You watch. Going to be a landslide.
If it was a landslide, then there will be no reason to worry about stealing or counting.
That's
If it's
right.
too big to rig, that's too big to rig.
Yep.
So
Yeah, we'll see if Kamala can capture the Obama magic, because people gripe about Obama, but you know what? He won 2 landslides.
He did.
he did.
Kamala is doing just fine. I'll tell you what. That woman is just doing gangbusters.
What's the biggest issue about
Democratic
Kamala?
National Convention is absolutely fantastic. It's riveting. Every one of
What
these
impresses you the
speakers,
most about her?
fabulous.
What single issue? What one specific issue? Not generalities. One specific thing impresses you the most about Kamala?
Oh boy, is that
One specific thing?
her ability to debate and to talk and to just talk about how much she loves this country and how much she's looking forward to, sort of ripping Trump apart in
Okay.
that first debate. I'm really looking forward to that. I can't wait.
But as far as issues go, what strong skill set and issues does she bring to the table to solve? What's the all the different things that we're facing in America today, whether it be the economy or education. Her experiences in criminal being a prosecutor, and but they kept saying that crime is not an issue. So being a prosecutor, if crime is not a big deal because crime is not an issue according to the Democrat Party.
Crime is down. Crime is down under Biden.
Then what's the issue?
Biden has passed more bills in the last 3 years than any president since FDR. He's created jobs like you wouldn't believe with his infrastructure bill. He has made the price of pharmaceuticals so much lower with this bill. I mean, he's done so many things, just so many things to make this country a better place. And Trump, of course, with COVID, killed 1 million people. He wanted you to use bleach. If you got COVID, you should take some bleach. So 1 million people died because of Trump.
Okay, I'm almost speechless. Good job.
Well, at least, I mean, I've said
I don't
before.
think a million people use bleach because Trump told them to use bleach.
Oh,
If it's two people, it's two people too many.
Well, I mean, I think he's being sarcastic and
Yeah,
facetious
that's what
at
they
the
say
time.
about Trump. Oh, he's just kidding. When he says he's going to be a dictator on day one,
anytime
he's just
somebody,
kidding. And then he says it
anytime
14
somebody
times.
says to put
He's not
bleach in your
kidding.
blood
He
system,
wants to be a dictator on day one. That's what he
the
wants to
logical
be. He's
factor.
got 4 million people
Okay.
right now from this
Okay.
just Project 2025 who are going to take
Which
over
he's
people
abandoned
in the
already.
government because
Which he's
all he
abandoned in
wants are people who will do what he wants.
Yeah, but he's not part of the 2025 project anymore. He
Yeah,
abandoned
bullshit.
that. And also, anybody that has any logical
Bullshit.
brain is not going to put anybody with any logic is not going to put bleach in their blood system. And people
Well,
who
he
do
could.
put bleach in their
He
system
can put the
are
bleach.
not logical.
He's good with the bleach.
Okay. But no, I mean, the whole issue is that Trump could have got infrastructure and everything else passed if COVID and the whole national shutdown hadn't happened.
See, I don't know.
Give us.
He's a disgusting human being. He's one of the most disgusting human beings I've ever run across. And I just don't understand what it is about people who like this guy. It makes no sense.
Well, it's not liking or not liking. It's just
liking or not liking. You're defending him. How can you defend a disgusting human being? I have Republican friends who have stopped defending him.
I'm calling strikes and balls here. I mean, basically, I'm saying that he didn't have the same fair activity or fair ability to get things done as the governing agent.
He hasn't done shit. In 4 years, he didn't do
everything was shut down.
Yeah,
because the Democrats shut the whole country down.
Oh, please.
And everybody's in a
That's
lockdown.
nonsense.
I mean, Florida's the only one that's in lockdown.
Nonsense.
Actually,
nonsense.
The reality, 49 states went on lockdown, except for Florida.
But
everything locked down.
A million people died because he refused to figure out a way to keep people from infecting each other. No, you don't have to wear a mask. Don't wear a mask. Just go ahead and do your business.
Well, I think
he went and he got COVID himself.
Everybody's a little guilty on that one there.
But I mean, the whole thing was a lack of leadership because he was pandering to his base because he denied
Fauci as well.
He called it a scam. He said that COVID wasn't real. And instead of allowing the CDC to do their job, it became the worst pandemic since the Spanish influenza, maybe more.
I don't think it was because Trump told people that it wasn't real. I mean, that's not the case at all. The case is it was a very dangerous disease, and Fauci and the CDC and everything else had
he was going after Tony Fauci. Tony Fauci wanted them to do the right thing with the COVID. And he was threatening to put Tony Fauci in freaking jail. He had his moron followers.
When Obama was president, there were 4 pandemics that hit this country. He let the pandemic task force handle it, and they were all very mild instances, and they went away. COVID comes in, and Trump, oh no, it's a hoax. It's they're just trying to get money, and we're not going to do anything, and don't wear masks, don't quarantine, and then we've got again the worst pandemic we've faced since Spanish influenza.
Yep.
And it blows up our economy. It even messes up with the social structure of the country.
Extreme oversimplification.
No, it's not. He refused to handle an issue that needed to be handled. And
I think a lot of people dropped the ball on the entire issue.
He killed 1 million people. I don't care what you say.
Well, I think China killed 8 million.
The buck stops here.
So,
and he was denying its existence until he got it.
A lot of people were dying under Biden's watch as well.
Yeah, who were those people? They were 106 years old.
COVID.
Huh?
5 other COVID individuals were dying when Biden took over.
That was the tail end when we were finally eradicating it.
Yeah, right, because of the stuff that Trump put in process. You're right.
It's I keep hearing about Trump's accomplishments, and I'm baffled because his early years.
There were none.
He was writing Obama's economy. He was writing that away for the first 2.5 years, and then
I think every president does that with every economy.
Went out the window.
Every president does that with every economy for the first 2.5 years.
Exactly. So he tries to take credit for day one, January 20th, 2017. yeah, I started this great economy. No, you didn't.
Everybody gets the credit or the blame for the economy before them for the first 2 years.
It takes 2 years for any presidential action to have an
Do
effect on the
anything.
economy. That's proven poli-sci, economics.
Right.
Unless you really screw the pooch like he did with COVID, which had immediate impact.
Yeah, he gave everybody checks because all their jobs were shut down, and which created the inflation we have now, which I get it.
Well, yeah, exactly. I mean, it's here's $600. Be my friend. Vote for me.
That's quite a
That
bit more
doesn't
than that,
solve
but
the
yeah.
issue of, you let this pandemic spread across the country when you could have stopped it if you just hadn't interfered and
Right.
let the CDC do their job like they had done the last 4 years Obama was in office.
Well, if you look at the Project 2025, he's going to do away with the CDC. He's going to do away with the Justice Department. He's going to do away with the Labor Department.
Yeah,
he's going to do away with most of these departments. If you look at
the
what
2025 project
is
ridiculous. I agree with you on that. It's
Thank
a totally ridiculous project. And so,
Thank you.
But he's embracing it.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I think he's reading after he started reading it, or his other people started reading it.
No, he didn't read it. He hasn't read.
Like
the only thing he's ever read was Mein Kampf by Hitler. That's the only book he's ever read. I don't know how he graduated from the University of Florida without ever reading a book.
He that's what I told people is, they talk about the art of the deal. It's like, I doubt he read it. He certainly didn't write it.
He certainly didn't.
Oh, and that was Warnock made a good point the other night. He's hawking the Bible like it needs his endorsement.
I get it. I know.
Exactly.
Then it's like he should just read
it.
You
got me on that one. Okay.
Yeah, I mean it's so.
Yeah.
And
some things are over the top and ridiculous.
A Republican made this point to me the other day, and I hadn't thought about it. And he says, there's nothing wrong with billionaires, per se. If you make that much money and you did it legally or even, you're fine. But what do you do with that money? And he says it tells a lot about human, whether you're a good person or not. But can you name me one benevolent, not-for-profit or foundation that Donald Trump has ever founded?
Yeah, well, it was Trump University. If you remember Trump University, where he stole the money from all those people.
Yeah, but I mean, there's no benevolent. There's nothing like cancer research.
He doesn't have a benevolent bone in his body.
I know.
Benevolent and Trump do not appear in the same sentence ever.
But that was his point. It's like you're not a good person if you're not somehow trying to give back to society.
I agree. Right.
So, yeah, it's all about, and that was what the Republicans, and there have been 4 so far, and there's more tonight speaking at the Democratic Convention, are saying is he's just a self-centered narcissist that doesn't give a shit about the United States or the people in it.
All he's trying to do right now is win an election so that he doesn't go to jail.
Exactly.
I mean, the Supreme Court is making it harder for him to go to jail to begin with, but even so, there are 5 different suits against him.
He also has a vendetta. He's already got his enemies list that makes Nixon's look like,
Oh, you're not kidding. You are not kidding. I know it.
He's already going after them day one.
I'm going after Rachel Maddow. I'm going to get her. Yeah, you better believe it.
So and he's got the benefit of a right-wing news media that backs everything he does.
Did you see the New York Post the other day? Kamala the Communist.
Yeah.
On the New York Post. Kamala the Communist.
It's kind of like the Palestinians had a big sign that said Kamala the Killer.
There you go.
The Palestinians had that sign.
I know it. I'll tell you.
Calling her that she's pro-Israel, so that should be good.
Hannity, that guy Hannity from Fox News is going to be our Secretary of State if Trump becomes the president. If you can imagine that.
So it's funny. it's
That'd be Matt Gates.
Could be, yeah.
It's just he wants control, he wants power, he wants people to worship him. And what better way to do that than in the Oval Office? Because
what is the highest office in the land? Yeah,
that's what Kennedy said. It's where the power is. It's where things happen.
But there's an alternative motive. The alternative motive is that he loses. He knows he's going to jail.
But he's also got this plan for reinventing. He's going to give us a new constitution.
He's going to take away the Constitution. Forget a new constitution.
I mean, he's going to give us his own. So
absolutely.
But, okay, there's no constitution. It's not going anywhere. Okay, Constitution is going to be in place.
That's what they said in Germany in 32.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere.
Exactly. Who's this guy Hitler?
Not going anywhere.
This funny little guy Hitler. Don't pay any attention to him. He's not going to do anything.
Okay, we have a lot more safeguards in place. We are much more resilient, and our people are much more confrontational to make sure it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
So let's take another break, and then let's talk about the Casey Anthony book.
Sure.
Okay, we'll be right back.